Elden Ring: The Nightreign, the newest adaptation to the FromSoft series. If you've looked online, you've probably seen a whole bunch of different videos or even comments about this, and it's usually a mixed bag in a lot of people's opinions. Either you absolutely love the game or you absolutely hate it. And today I'm going to be giving my own opinion on it and giving you some ideas of if it's even worth picking up or just completely skipping. By the time of this recording, I have around 25 maybe to 30 hours worth of gameplay time in the game. Well, aside from the wait times in this game, which I will be going over in a little bit. It is honestly pretty fun so far, and I would love to get into why I at least personally enjoy a lot of the features, but there is a lot of features I absolutely hate as well that I will be getting into. The first thing I want to start with is mostly the gameplay, because it's probably the most important part of this. It is, like I said in the prior video when I talked about the beta, it is just a mixed bag of pretty much like a battle royale. And then if you like Elden Ring, it has like the Souls-like genre in there, and then a little bit of a roguelite all mixed together. It honestly works pretty well, but there is a lot of major issues with it. So with the gameplay in the game, it honestly feels amazing, just like any other FromSoft game. And I'm really happy about that. Like, it just feels like another Souls game with, you know, the same type of combat mechanics and stuff like that. I never thought that the gameplay was going to be a bad part of it, because usually they have that down to a T, which I can say right here, it is the same thing with this game. There is a little bit of an issue with it with a lot of people, and that is that a lot of characters are reused and stuff like that for enemy variety and stuff. And I can agree that it kind of sucks to see all the same types of enemies, but there at least is some new bosses and even returning bosses from prior games, which I really enjoy. But I can get around the idea that we pretty much played against all these in Elden Ring, and you're pretty much fighting them all over again. But to be fair, it is called Elden Ring, so I wasn't really having high of expectations for there to be a different type of variety of enemies, at least in my opinion. But does that absolutely ruin the game? No. I think it is kind of cool to see some of the old enemies. It can be kind of boring depending on what type of run you're getting into. If you see the same enemies over and over again, it kind of just drags on a little bit, mostly when you get into a couple hour marks. Like, you'll start seeing like the same type of run over and over again. Like, I streamed all this. If you want to go check it out, I have it on my YouTube channel. And a lot of the times I was fighting the same type of enemies over and over again, same types of bosses each and every night. And it kind of sucks when it gets to that point where you're just pretty much doing the same thing over and over again. For example, when I was going off to fight the Night Lord, the 4 matches that I did end up playing to actually beat him, luckily we got him on the 4th try. Each and every time, the first boss and the second boss were absolutely the same type of churches, the same type of areas that we were running through, like the spire and stuff that you unlock at the end. Everything felt the same. We would just keep doing it on repeat until we got it down. And it kind of sucked in that like kind of sense, which I know it's supposed to have like randomly generated, but it's not really randomly generated. That's the thing that's so weird about it. Like, every area that we were going to, like the churches and stuff, were all placed the same enemies were at each and every location, and so were the bosses that we were fighting over and over again. And I know it's supposed to be like a chance of what type of boss you might be fighting, but it seemed like it really wasn't by the time we ended up playing, because every single time we kept fighting the remnants at the beginning for our first boss, and then the second boss was a dragon each and every time. It was pretty much felt like a really boring loop, and I know that is kind of on the game's fault at that point, because we shouldn't be having that type of issue where we keep getting the same enemy over and over again. And maybe opening the boss pool a little bit more would have been the smarter idea, instead of having, I think it's 3 bosses each and every single night for like these set specific ones, because then this type of stuff happens where you just keep fighting the same stuff over and over again, and it makes for very boring gameplay for like later date runs if you're trying to play. It just is not going to be as exciting being the same type of night over and over again, at least in my opinion. Aside from that, I think the run through time is actually still kind of fun, even though sometimes it feels kind of repeaty. It just really depends on what type of boss you're fighting at the time. Some of them feel kind of unique for the knights, but as other ones go, it pretty much feels the same. There isn't really that much of a switch up on the map either, you'll notice as you're playing through. All of them kind of feel the same. They do have these little shattered things where it switches up the map a little bit. Sometimes you'll have rot forest that you can run through where you'll want to get these certain herbs and stuff to pretty much wipe out the rot for the rest of the game. There's also one with a mountain, stuff like that. I think that's kind of cool, but at the same time, it was pretty much kind of a little thing that was thrown in, it feels like. It doesn't really switch up too much. It just kind of gives you a really good buff for the rest of the game, which I personally enjoy. Now, where it comes into one of my other issues, though, is this game isn't hand-holdy, and that's completely fine with me. I don't think any of the FromSoft games are truly hand-holdy, but there's a lot of features in this game that you will not notice unless you have played prior games or if you just randomly find them out. Like weapons. When you pick up a weapon, they have these alignments and stuff on them, and I think it's kind of cool that they added this. I did not know that even if you're not using the weapon, you still get these types of buffs, which is kind of a weird feature to have and not really go into. Maybe they did go into it and I'm completely blind, but I do not remember them telling me that at all. So every single time I got a better weapon, I was prone to just drop it until I found out that it actually had some type of buff for you. And certain ones you have to have uniquely equipped to your character to even get the buff. It's cool after you find out how it works, but if you didn't understand that beforehand, then it's kind of oh, well, I wish I would have known that hours beforehand. I played maybe 5 to 6 hours before even finding out this feature. There's also ones like the blouses and stuff. If you pop those in the base game, they only last for a certain amount of time, but in this DLC or whatever you want to call it, it will literally last the rest of your game. That is an awesome buff that I did not know was even a thing. I thought it was going to be a time thing, just like how it is in the base game, but in this DLC, it just lasts the rest of the game. It's really cool, but it's stuff like that for features wise. If they wanted newer players to come in, they should have kind of gave a little bit more of an explanation on it, at least in my opinion. But aside from those, I honestly think most of the stuff in this game is really fun. I think finding new weapons and stuff is absolutely amazing, but there is some issues with also the weapon variety. There is a lot of weapons in this game, don't get me wrong. There is absolute crap ton when you actually go through the things. Same thing with spells and stuff. But I feel one of the issues is, at least when we were playing together, me and my teammate, it just kept giving us stuff that wasn't part of any of our 3 classes, which was kind of bothersome because we kept getting magic spells, staffs, and stuff like that, even when we didn't have mages and stuff. And I get that's part of the roguelite type idea where everything's random. You might get something that you actually need, and sometimes you don't get something that you need at all. And that's completely fine to me, but it just wasn't working well because there was a whole bunch of different churches that we went to, and all of them just kept giving us stuff that literally did not align with our character at all, and it would actually ruin certain runs because of it. And I know that's, like I said, part of the roguelite type of charm, where sometimes you get something that you actually want, and sometimes you get stuff that you absolutely do not want or need, which is, part of the fun. But it felt like it was getting to the point where it was pretty much a detriment sometimes. Sometimes I would only, when I played Iron Eye, which is my personal character I like to play a lot, I would only get maybe 1 or 2 bows throughout a whole thing. And I would be at level 15 to 16. I've been running around the map and taking out churches, going into mines and stuff like that. And I'll end up with a blue weapon by the end of it and a whole bunch of purples and stuff for that. For completely different classes, which kind of sucks. But aside from that, it's still, a roguelite, so it's stuff to expect at least. I still don't think it's that bad. If you get used to it, it won't even be that much of an effect to you. As long as you are able to find something that might like fit your character, you'll be completely fine throughout each and every night. But aside from that, honestly, there is still a lot of good stuff I actually enjoy. I think the map is actually really fun to traverse, even though it can get kind of samey, like I said before. But at least most of it feels really enjoyable to run around. And like I said, the difficulty and stuff feels just like any other FromSoft game. The bosses that they've added in this one, I will go over a couple of them real quick. Like the wolf one that you end up fighting right off the bat is amazing. There's also one called like the Equilibrious Beast, which is like a madness type of goat. Absolutely amazing boss fight. I loved and enjoyed every second of that boss. A lot of the bosses in this DLC, or whatever you want to call it, is amazing. Like most of the ones that they came up with actually feel like they have some type of purpose and are really fun to get to know. I know this might be like a kind of an odd thing. I wish the matches would go a little bit faster, because sometimes you run a 40-minute run just to get back to those bosses, and I just want to get right back to them because they are so fun to fight and I want to learn what they actually do. And when you actually get to them, they do not disappoint. The atmosphere around the area looks absolutely amazing, and even the music and stuff that they added for this is just great in general. Speaking of atmosphere, the area that you're playing through looks awesome. It looks just like, you know, Elden Ring, but a little bit better in a way. Like mostly when you get to like the final bosses that you fight on the third night, it just looks amazing in that area. And even for certain boss fights, it will actually change for them. Like the Night Lord has one that's set unique for him. I think so does the Fissure of Fog, which is like the ice boss. That one has like a unique little area that you fight in. And I really enjoy that idea because it at least gives you like a cool vibe of what area you're fighting through and stuff. And like I said before, the music is amazing. I think FromSoft has had this down for who knows how long. The music has always been one of their like huge like upticks that you will absolutely love no matter what. But aside from that, how is the story and stuff? The story in the game is kind of like a side content type thing. It really doesn't really add all too much. There's like cool little tidbits of like cutscenes and stuff. Honestly, it's more cutscenes than usually you get in a FromSoft game. So take that as positive, at least in this. I think the story is somewhat okay. It's not like anything crazy to write home about, but that's completely fine. It's probably all comes down to lore books, so I would honestly just recommend going to watch like a lore guide on the game, because there's probably so much stuff that you will absolutely miss unless you watch one of those. But there's also these like cool little unique things that they threw in for people that truly want to get into like the story and stuff, and that's called remembrances. And remembrances are what the story pretty much is. It just gives you a little bit of a memory of each and every character that you play as, and if you really don't want to do that, you don't have to. It's cool that it's just on the side for people that want to play through it. You get a skin for doing it, and you also get like a unique relic for your character. Relics are another thing that they added throughout this, and relics are okay. They're pretty much just little minor buffs that you get throughout the game, and they last forever. Like you start off a run with whatever relic you want, and it just gives you like a little mini buff for the rest of that playthrough, which is kind of cool. Some of them are but if you don't like them, you can just sell them off to this market that's also on the side, or you can just keep them and do whatever you want with them. Depending on what type of class you're building, those can be absolutely amazing or absolutely garbage, because they don't give you class-specific ones, even if you're playing a certain class. But aside from that, let's talk about the classes. The classes in the game are actually pretty fun. I think they're all really unique in their own rights. My favorite one is personally Iron Eye. I also like Wilder and the Executor, but it really comes down to whatever your preference is. I feel like most of these classes are at least really unique. When you look at this game, you're not going to say this character is like this character at any time. Like, all of them feel special in their own way, and I'm really happy that it ended up turning out this way. Like, Revenant is pretty much a summoner class, really fun if you can get really into it. Recluse is your mage. Wilder is more like your overall anything can kind of go type character. Raider is your tanky type guy that is going to give you like damage buffs and stuff like that. Kind of like a support plus tank in two, which is kind of cool. Iron Eye is your archer, so there's your backline support. And then you have like Duchess, which is your glass cannon type character where you kind of run in, do a lot of damage, and get out as quick as possible. If I'm And then the last one is Guardian. I think he is honestly probably the weakest character out of the bunch. He doesn't really do all too much. He's just pretty much supposed to tank the damage, but I think Raider does a better job at it. Honestly, out of any character, I think he's the only one that is not all too eventful. But yeah, and then Executor is pretty much a Sekiro type character. If you want to play a Sekiro style character, there you go. It doesn't really work well in the Souls-like genre. You'll notice that as you're playing the character, but he's still really fun. Mostly his ultimate, which I will not spoil. But let's get into my last little gripes with the game. I know there's going to be a lot of issues with the game when it first comes out, but these ones were pretty annoying, and the first one I want to talk about is that it was almost impossible to find players. You were playing for maybe 10 to 20 minutes worth of time without actually finding a match. So you're just kind of walking in circles around the round table. At least that's my personal experience when I was playing. Like, I legit could not find a match, and we were only looking for one player half the time. Usually I had one teammate with me, so we were literally just walking in circle for 10 to 20 minutes talking to each other while trying to find a match. And that's not how it should be. And if the connection issues were going to be this bad, they should have had co-op right off the bat, so this type of issue wasn't going to play a huge role, at least in the end game. But because there is only 3-player to single player, you have to deal with this. And it's not any better, at least from what I played. It is still the same way as it was at launch, where I legit cannot find a match, or I have to sit there for 20 to 30 minutes for a match. And then half the time you find a match, you find some of the worst players you're ever going to see. They don't listen to anything because there's no communication in the game. You can't talk to each other. There's no chat in the game. You just have to ping and just hope for the best. And if they don't follow that ping, then, well, there they go. They're off their own direction. You can't do anything about it either. They get to decide what they want to do, which really sucks because there should be some type of communication, mostly in a communication type of game where we're trying to work as a group. There's 3 of us that have to work together to get to the final boss. But when you can't talk to the third person, it makes it impossible for the game to even go well. You just have to hope for the best and use the stupid little gestures that they give you in the game and hope for the best that they understand what you're trying to say to them. But usually they won't. So you're just going to be running off some other direction while your Wilder is dying over in the castle on the other side of the map. But the other issues also are like the remembrances. And this is another part that plays into the slow queue times. If you use a remembrance, only one person can use it in a match. And this can cause it to go from a 10 to 20 minute wait to a 30 to an hour wait, which is absolutely insane for like wait time. The one time I was trying to play Iron Eye, I'm not even joking you, I sat there for 30 to 40 minutes looking for a Night Lord match where I legit couldn't find another player. Stuff like that shouldn't happen. I understand that they wanted it to be like a single remembrance at a time, but that doesn't work. It just does not. It can't be in the game. If the servers don't work right, it can't have that as well. Because people are all going to be popping remembrances, trying to get their quests done and stuff like that. And with the queue times being bad enough, having that on top of it makes it almost impossible to find another player because those players are probably having it on as well. So who knows who you're actually going to find. I know the host ends up being the one to have it, but who gets to decide who's the host when it's all just random players getting thrown into one match? So it kind of makes it a pain to deal with. But aside from those two, the other major issue I have with the game, it even happened on stream. I had to delete the VOD because of it. I had hard crashes from this game. The game is poorly optimized. At least on PC, I legit had to reset my computer twice. Well, I didn't even reset it personally. My computer just sent me a frowny emoji and then just shut down twice. So I had to restart it completely and then get back on. And I'm not sure why it kept doing that. It also was very unoptimized. Like the frame rate that is in the game just kept randomly dropping at any point in time for no apparent reason. Mostly if you guys just want to see something interesting, at least if you're on PC, turn on your frame rate, pause the game and go to the settings, and immediately, for some reason, you drop 5 to 10 frames. It does not matter what you're doing. The game runs perfectly fine, but once you pause the game, the UI just like completely poops on your computer for some reason. But aside from those ones, it's just kind of insane how unoptimized it is. It kind of just feels like when Elden Ring first came out on PC, which was really disappointing in that light. And it's not like I have a weak computer. I have a 40 series card in my PC, and it still has a hard time trying to run this game, even with that. But what do I think about the game overall? Honestly, Elden Ring, the Nightreign is over-glorified DLC. It's charging $40 for something that shouldn't be $40. I feel like this DLC should have been more of a $20 to $30 throw-in and just kind of a little side mode for people that just want to try something different and have a little bit of fun with friends. But the way it is right now, it is just not worth that $40 price range, mostly asking for a $10 up price if you want to get the later date DLCs. What gets me concerned about is there going to be any types of patches or free updates to this game for the people that bought it for $40 to get more stuff in the game. And in my opinion, I think there's not going to be. So it's going to be sitting at this price range, and it's just not going to be worth it. At least in my opinion, I think it is a complete skip until it lowers in price or until these issues are ironed out completely, because of right now, the state of the game isn't all too great. I think it is like set up for a great path to the future of the series. I think it could be one of the better modes to the game, and honestly could become a staple of the FromSoft series, and they could do something with Dark Souls or something as well to make it a little bit more interesting and exciting. But as of right now, it's just not there yet, and I'm sad to say that. But later on, I feel like we'll have something there, but we'll have to see. But if you guys enjoy the content, make sure to leave a like and a sub. And if you have suggestions for anything else to check out, make sure to leave them down in the comments down below. And I'll see y'all next time. See ya.